Hi everyone. So the news today is that a Corrigendum has been published to BS7671 18th edition Amendment 2. And in this video, I thought I would give my thoughts on this and all thoughts of my own in all of my videos, of course, but I just thought I'd give my reaction to the change that's happened today. Now, this was announced last Monday that there was going to be a Corrigendum, which is published today. It's free to download on the IET website. So go on there and have a look at the changes. I think the first thing to point out is that since the 18th edition was first published in 2018, there have been two amendments, and this is the third Corrigendum now. So there have been quite a few changes just in the last 5 years since 2018, and it doesn't seem 5 years ago since we were getting ready for the 18th edition, does it? It doesn't seem like 5 years at all, and of course, such a lot has happened since then across. Well, the whole world has changed, isn't it, basically, in the last 5 years? So it really doesn't feel like that long, but of course, we've got a lot of change that's happened. And I think the important thing to bear in mind is that we work in an industry that goes through a lot of change, as you all know. And the best thing for us as electricians to do, I think the only thing that we can do for our part is to try and keep up with the latest changes as they happen. So this change obviously has happened today, so you can find the details on the IET website, but I thought I'd give my thoughts on it. In one of my previous videos, I go through a list of the changes in Amendment 2 in some detail, and I talk about the changes, and I talk about it by looking at the beginning of the book. There's an introduction to Amendment 2, and I go through the list and then go through the changes in the regulations in Amendment 2. So if you haven't seen that, I'll put a link in the description after this video has gone live. So check that out if you haven't seen it. And I think some of the changes, the thing that I noticed in there is some of the changes are quite subtle and didn't all make it into the introduction, interestingly. So check that video out if you haven't seen it already. So onto the Corrigendum, and the first change is to Regulation 422.2 regarding protected escape routes. And you'll notice the changes in red, which clarify the regulation. Let's have a look at that, see if I can get that in front of me on my screen here. So yeah, you can download this from the IET, and it looks like there are 5 main areas where there are changes. Changes are highlighted in red and some are crossed out as well. So the first one is regarding protected escape routes. And so this seems to clarify this regulation a bit. It says cables or other electrical equipment shall not be installed in a firefighting lobby, shaft or staircase of a protected escape route unless part of an essential fire safety or related system, general needs lighting or socket outlets provided for cleaning and maintenance. And it seems that the changes there highlighted in red are the words firefighting lobby, shaft or staircase. So that does seem to sort of clarify that a little bit there. And there's also in the notes, you can see those words highlighted in red again. But there is another regulation regarding escape routes in medical locations in section 710, which I'll come on to in a minute, because there's a slight difference in how they do things in terms of medical locations. They have their own standard for healthcare. I forget the name of it, but for healthcare installations, they have a separate standard. Now, the most talked about change is in section 443. So just having a look at it here. So just bring my notes up as well. So section 433 and regulation 443.4.1 and indent 2 has been removed from the regulation, and this is because there were some cases where organizations have been applying the regulation to grade D smoke detectors, which I don't think that was ever the intention. So let's have a look at what it says. Let's go back to so regulation 443.4.1, which relates to transient overvoltages due to the effects of indirect lightning strikes or lightning strokes, it says. Protection against transient overvoltages shall be provided where the consequence caused by the overvoltage could result in, and 1, serious injury to or loss of human life, and 2, it used to say failure of a safety service as defined in part 2. Now that's been deleted in this Corrigendum, and that is because, as I just said a moment ago, there have been some cases apparently where that's been applied to grade D smoke detection systems, which I don't think was ever the intention. So now we've just got the 2 indents left, which is serious injury to or loss of human life, and then significant financial or data loss. So that was that one, and that I think has probably caused the most conversation about the changes in the Corrigendum. I think when I think of a safety circuit, I think a good example is where you've got a fire alarm system to BS 5839 Part 1, and you've got a fire alarm panel. And then you've got a dedicated supply, a dedicated circuit that's wired in maybe Pyro or FP or something similar. I think that's a really good example of a safety circuit. And similar can be said as well for emergency lighting circuits from a central battery system. So those are examples of safety circuits of what I think of as safety circuits anyway. And I don't think that grade D smoke detection systems were ever intended to be part of that, but I think it's difficult to define that, probably because fire alarms are under a separate British standard. So to make it easier and to remove any confusion, the IT or JPL 64 rather have removed that indent 2 from that regulation to prevent that from being misinterpreted. Whether that changes again in a later amendment, we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, so I don't think that it was ever intended to be applied to grade D smoke detection systems, which are to BS 5839 Part 6. But obviously that is the unintended consequence that they referred to, and I think that that's possibly why that they have. That they've made this change to prevent that confusion there. There's also been a change to the table 443.2 to clarify that, and that relates to rated impulse voltage. So let's have a look at that. Where that's been the table, it removes examples such as alarm panels, computers, and home electronics from there. So that I think clarifies that a little bit. So let's move on. Then there's also been a change to regulation 534.4.1.1, which is regarding where SPDs are required. And I think this corresponds to the change that was made in 433. And the Corrigendum has deleted the words fire stroke security alarm systems. So let's have a look back at that then. So just trying to find it. Yeah, so chapter 534, devices for protection against overvoltage. So it says in regulation 534.4.1.1 where SPDs are required, and it goes through that there, and you can see in red, and it's kind of crossed out fire security alarm systems. So that's kind of clarified that a little bit. So I think that sort of correlates to the change that they made previously. So just trying to keep up with the changes here. And so the next change was in section 701, where birthing pools has been removed from the section. That's just basically for rooms containing a bath or shower. That's now taken out the word birthing pools, just so that's not in there at all. And then the last change is in section 710, and a new regulation has been added regarding electrical equipment in protected escape routes in medical locations. As I mentioned earlier, that that there is a separate requirement for medical locations. Chapter 710, let's have a look at it here. So you've got a new regulation here, 710.422.2.201. Within a healthcare facility, cables or other electrical equipment may be installed in a protected escape route where, one, the healthcare facility complies with the Health Technical Memoranda, HTM, and the healthcare fire safety guidance, and two, the particulars of the electrical installation within the protected escape route are documented as part of the fire strategy. So that just shows the difference there between the thinking on the fire escape routes in medical locations and protected fire escape routes mentioned earlier on in the book. So that's why there's a change there. So those are the changes in the Corrigendum. Have a look in if you can download it for free from the IET website. I think probably the BSI website as well. But I do think that the most talked about change is definitely the one in section 443 regarding the protection against transient overvoltages of atmospheric origin and the removal of indent 2. I think it's good to clarify that. I think it's good to take that out there. But personally, I would like to see more of a definition on what we deem as a safety service. I don't know if that's something that might change in the future. I know that this is something before Amendment 2. I remember having a conversation with somebody about what is a safety service, and I've always taken it to be a safety circuit to be something something that supplies, say, a fire alarm panel or emergency lighting system or something of that nature, firefighting equipment. I know that there's a list in Chapter 56 if you have a look there, and that there are particular requirements in Chapter 56 for anything that's related to safety circuits. So let's see if we've got any questions in chat. Hi, Gary. Hi, thanks for joining us. If anybody's got any questions at all, leave us a note in the chat or in the comments if you're watching the video later. So that's the news for today. So hope that all makes sense. But what I would say to everybody is do go on the IET website and check out the new Corrigendum, and it's free to download. And I think you can keep a copy with your regs book, like we always have done when there's been amendments in the past. And it's just, I think, a case of being aware of the latest changes as they happen. And I think all we can do, I know there's been a lot of conversation online about this that I've seen on Twitter and places like that, about these changes and, about the confusion around where SPDs are required. And I just think that, as I say, the most important thing for us to do, and the only thing that we can do as electricians, is to make sure that we're keeping up to the latest standard as amended. So do check out the Corrigendum on the IET website, have a look at that, and let us know if you have any questions at all. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'll leave the live stream there, and thanks very much, everybody, for watching.